Hey everybody, welcome back to the Court of Random Opinion. My name is Lauren Neidigh. We have a new update in the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni case. This is in regards to that motion by Stephanie Jones and Blake Lively to modify the schedule of the case. So they're trying to extend the deadline for the end of depositions and the end of fact discovery. And we're going to go through their response to Wayfarer. We read over Wayfarer's response last night. I was with Omar and Elsie. And so that was a funny one. Actually, if you haven't seen it yet, you should go and read over that. So there's lots of snark in it. It was pretty interesting to read. So we're going to look at the response now from Blake Lively's attorneys. I don't have a lot of time before I have to go back to the airport to try again to pick up my bag. So once again, I'm going to sound a little off right now because I have to use this little microphone attached to the headphones while I'm on the road. I don't have any of my clothes or anything right now. So I'm going to sound a little off, and also I have this light like blasting on my face, which is making me kind of hot, and I'm going to turn the light and the camera off because of that, but I will read through this with you guys, so give me 1 second. Okay, I think you can probably see that all right. Let me just zoom in one time. Nope, that's not what I want. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. Dear Judge Lyman, Plaintiff Blake Lively respectfully submits this reply in further support of the joint motion to amend the case management plan and scheduling order. As an initial matter, the Wayfarer parties have agreed to extend the deadline for the completion of depositions from August 14th to September 30th, which would have obviated the need for bulk of the motion in opposition had the Wayfarer parties simply conferred in good faith on the matter. Well, we've seen that they conferred on the matter, and then you guys went to the judge. So what is the actual issue here? Notwithstanding this agreement, the Wayfarer parties have filed an opposition in order to assert baseless, false, and irrelevant accusations about Ms. Lively, such as that Ms. Lively has failed to diligently engage in discovery and seeks to unnecessarily delay her July 17th deposition. This false claim just so happens to parrot the sanctionable narrative spun by Wayfarer's lead counsel, Brian Friedman, for months, namely that Ms. Lively is hiding the truth and afraid of being deposed. Okay, CTMZ, Baldoni lawyer Brian Friedman rips Blake Lively. I mean, I have yet to see anything to prove the contrary. So, that's just my opinion. To be clear, all of this is categorically false. Not only has Ms. Lively repeatedly stated that she intends to move forward with her deposition on July 17th, it is actually the Wayfarer parties who, just hours after submitting their opposition yesterday, sought to take that deposition off the calendar, relying upon a brazen misrepresentation that they were responding to a request that Ms. Lively never made. Well, we'll just see about that. See Exhibit A, and then we have footnotes here. 1 sec. In that same correspondence, the Wayfarer parties also refused to agree that Ms. Lively's deposition be held at her counsel's office to ensure that appropriate security measures could be in place under the supervision of her counsel. So in this emails we're about to read, or at least one of the emails we're about to read, they say there will be adequate and appropriate security at the location. So go fuck yourself. All right. This is particularly concerning given the high-profile nature of this case. Yes, okay, so, like, of course it is, and there's going to be appropriate security. Especially in light of Mr. Friedman's previous threats to live stream and sell tickets. That wasn't a threat. Was it you could argue that it was a joke in poor taste, but that absolutely was not a fucking threat. You're an idiot. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry, I got a little mad for a second there. But we're going to pretend that didn't happen. Anyways. The reality, contrary to the Wayfarer party's alternative facts, shut up, is that Ms. Lively is ready and eager to sit for her deposition on July 17th, which is why, unlike the majority of the Wayfarer parties, she substantially completed her document production well in advance of the deposition date. Well, that is disputed, first of all. Second of all, that was my shoe, not a fart. I don't know if any of you guys heard that, but I swear to God, it was my shoe. All right. The same cannot be said for the Wayfarer parties. Ms. Lively has made painstaking efforts to diligently engage in discovery in this case, as evidenced by her fulsome productions to date, and her multiple motions to compel the Wayfarer parties and third parties represented by Wayfarer counsel to disclose even the most basic documents in response to discovery. At each turn, the Wayfarer parties have refused to produce key documents and have taken obstructive and unreasonable positions. Okay. And even in the face of a court-ordered deadline to complete substantial document productions by July 1st, the Wayfarer parties' productions remain materially incomplete. To date, the Wayfarer parties have failed to even produce all communications contained within their First Amended complaint in Exhibit A. For his part, Mr. Sarowitz has produced only 2 documents. You said it was 3 a couple days ago. So is it 2 or is it 3? A production that is indisputably deficient, given that he is Wayfarer's co-founder, co-chairman, and leading financier, not just of the studio and film, but of this litigation as well. The productions by Mr. Heath, Mr. Baldoni, Miss Abel, Miss Nathan, and Tagg are similarly deficient. Mr. Heath and Baldoni produced only limited text messages, and Miss Nathan, Tagg, and Miss Abel failed to produce texts that Miss Lively knows to be in their possession and which are directly responsive to pending requests. Hey, so how do you know them to be in their possession? Do we want to talk about that? I don't think you want to go there. All right. One second. Directly responsive to pending requests, including, for example, communications about Mr. Wallace and being able to bury anyone. Okay. Further, while Ms. Lively intends to meet and confer with the Wayfarer parties about these deficiencies before seeking formal judicial intervention, yeah, right. Ms. Lively has recently learned that the 150 hours of film footage produced by the Wayfarer parties is materially defective. The video files were produced without embedded audio, meaning that while film footage can be reviewed, it can only be reviewed without audio, thereby rendering the production of that footage incomplete and unusable for any substantive purpose. Well, what purpose would you need it for? You know exactly when you were sexually harassed. Even now you can look at a replay. You need to know exactly what was said? You don't remember? I don't know if that's true or not. They might have sent the audio separately where you have to sync it or something. I have no idea what they might have done, but I don't believe it at face value based on what I'm reading here. So, especially after they said 50,000 hours. So, no, you have lost any right to be taken at face value here in regards to the film footage. Okay. Notwithstanding these clear deficiencies, Ms. Lively has arranged her calendar, as well as the calendars of her counsel, in order to sit for her deposition on July 17th. Well, congratulations, sugar. You did it, just a month after you were supposed to the first time. Rather than address these glaring discovery shortcomings, the Wayfarer parties instead try to pass blame to Ms. Lively for somehow failing to exercise diligence in conducting discovery and scheduling depositions. But this argument is belied by the factual record, including the many motions to compel filed by Ms. Lively, which have been prerequisites for Ms. Lively to be able to determine which of the voluminous third parties in this case should sit for depositions. So when they're talking about the third parties and shit like that, they were trying to subpoena various third-party content creators. So instead of scheduling the depositions for the Wayfarer parties, they did not respond. They did not provide other dates that they could schedule those depositions on. And then they cried to the judge and said, oh my gosh, they're only giving us 1 or 2 dates and it's not in the order we want. Well, you have to respond. You have to work with them. In any event, fact discovery remains open, and Ms. Lively has actively worked to obtain key discovery and coordinate depositions. No, you haven't. Don't fucking lie to me. Efforts which have been largely impeded by the Wayfarer parties. Indeed, the only reason formal notices have not been served is because the Wayfarer parties have failed to produce key documents and offered only minimal availability. But you didn't tell them what dates you wanted in response. They asked you, what other dates would you propose, and you refused to answer. Especially to Stephanie Jones' lawyers. Stephanie Jones is just trying to run off the map while mandating a particular sequencing of witnesses. That is not a failure of diligence. It is a measured, appropriate effort to coordinate depositions fairly and efficiently. But you have to respond and work with them to come up with that schedule. If you fail to do so, then you don't get to cry about it later. So you can wipe your tears on whatever paper you type this out on and get the fuck over it, in my opinion, but that's just me. However, given the Wayfarer party's continued discovery woes, the case plan must be amended to extend the time for depositions and to order the completion of party document productions by July 25th. The Wayfarer party's attempt to cast this request as delay mischaracterizes the request. Does it? Ms. Lively seeks to require all parties to complete document productions by July 25th to ensure that all parties can appropriately prepare for and timely complete depositions, not to extend any existing deadline. Why do you need all of that to review before your deposition? Why don't you know when and how you were sexually harassed? Why don't you know your story? Her request to establish a briefing schedule for inevitable further motions to compel. Go fuck yourself. Including with regard to answers posed during the depositions of the Wayfarer parties, supports this same goal. The Wayfarer party's suggestion that Miss Lively hopes to tee up discovery motions, regardless of whether those motions are even necessary, for the entire month of July, could not be further from the truth. Miss Lively simply... okay. Miss Lively simply seeks to establish an efficient schedule to address the obvious deficiencies in the Wayfarer party's document productions and to avoid any party having to complete depositions with insufficient information in documents. Uh-huh. Well, I suppose you would need that if you weren't actually sexually harassed. Miss Lively is looking forward to proceeding with the depositions of the Wayfarer parties, even though she refuses to produce any dates that they would like to... Okay. But should not be forced to complete depositions without the benefit of a substantially complete record. Given the Wayfarer party's agreement that the time for deposition should be extended from August 14th to September 30th, Ms. Lively respectfully submits the court should modify the deadlines by which all parties must complete their document productions, as well as establish a schedule for briefing the sufficiency of those productions. Such deadlines will be to benefit all parties who will have complete productions in advance of key depositions and can avoid the burden of multiple competing motions to compel before this court. And because the Wayfarer parties do not claim prejudice due to the proposed production and briefing dates, which would keep the current summary judgment and trial deadlines intact, the court should grant the motion. And we have an exhibit over here. Give me one sec, guys. Just need some water real quick. Okay. So this is an email from, I think it's Blake's counsel. Yes, Bannett, to the Wayfarer Parties Council. And this was on July 7th, Monday. Counsel, we write regarding Ms. Lively's upcoming July 17th deposition, as we have emphasized in letter and email on June 11th and 17th, and during the parties' meet and confer on June 13th, Ms. Lively's receipt and review of the film footage on which you may rely for her depositions is a necessary precondition to her sitting for a deposition on this matter. So we're confirming here that she will not do it without the footage. That's what I thought. In fact, we agreed to a continuance of Ms. Lively's deposition from the originally noticed date of June 23rd to July 17th on the understanding that all footage be produced in this case. And the judge agreed they did not have to produce. I believe the judge agreed they did not have to produce a lot of the stuff she wanted them to produce by a certain date. And I think that's why she freaked out about the deposition. But don't quote me on that. I'll have to go back and check. Including the footage that may be used or relied on in Ms. Lively's deposition will be produced by July 1st. Timely production of documents and footage is critical because, after we have repeatedly communicated, Ms. Lively will not sit for a deposition more than once. Well, Her Highness should never have to do that. On June 26, you estimated you would substantially complete a production of 100 terabytes of film footage data by July 1st, with a few remaining hard drives to arrive shortly thereafter next week. So you knew that those 3 hard drives that you didn't have were going to arrive shortly after, and you still went to the judge and complained that you didn't have all the hard drives? Do you think that's a flex? In response to our request for tracking numbers for the drives on July 1st, none of which we had received at the time of our email, you indicated that the majority of the drives should have arrived and that the final drives should arrive prior to the holiday. It has been nearly a week since July 1st and 4 days since the July 4th holiday, but we still do not have all the film footage you intend to produce. Instead, by July 1st, you produced 14 slip sheets, allegedly corresponding to each of the hard drives had sent or intended to send, and only 3 hard drives. Huh? Hold on. They said they got 8, so I don't know what the problem is. They said they were missing 3. Just this afternoon, you advised there has been a processing delay, indicating that the final 3 hard drives have not even been shipped. We have repeatedly stated that timely production of the film footage is a gating issue. Ms. Lively's deposition is scheduled to take place in 10 days. As of this writing, you have refused to provide even a tracking number for the final set of hard drives that were purportedly due to arrive before July 4th. Well, if they're having a processing delay and they haven't shipped them yet, how are they supposed to give you a tracking number, you fucking dumbass? If you wish to proceed with Ms. Lively's deposition on July 17th, please confirm when we can expect the remaining hard drives no later than 12 o'clock p.m. tomorrow. Assuming that all footage will in fact be delivered to us by July 11th, we will go ahead with Ms. Lively's deposition on July 17th, beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern For security reasons, Ms. Lively's depositions will be held at the New York City offices of Wilkie, Farr, and Gallagher, located at blah, blah, blah. Well, guys, maybe don't make that super public. I mean, these are her attorneys, but okay. And this is their document that they're putting out there, but all right. Separate and private breakout spaces will be provided for attending parties and counsel, as well as lunch and refreshments. Can I come? I promise I won't call anyone a cunt. We are also happy to coordinate logistics and building access with a court reporter and videographer if you'd like. For security reasons, we will require a list of all persons who wish to attend the deposition by no later than Friday, July 11th. Oh, I still have 2 days then. I would like to attend the deposition. All right. I know that's not how that works, but still. Anyways, here was the response to that by Wayfarer last night at 9:53 p.m. Counsel, we agree to your request to postpone Miss Lively's deposition, currently scheduled for July 17th. As the film footage will be produced by July 11th, please provide us with several available dates in late July for Miss Lively's deposition. The deposition will take place at the offices of Meister Seelig and Fine. I don't know if I'm saying that right, which has security as set forth in the original deposition notice. So they noticed the deposition and they said that there would be appropriate security. Let us know by noon Pacific time tomorrow, so that would have been today, the available alternative dates for Ms. Lively's deposition and whether court intervention is necessary on the location issue. Okay. So what are we actually looking at here? They're saying they are asking for... Okay. If you wish to proceed with Ms. Lively's deposition on July 17th, please confirm when we can expect the remaining hard drives no later than noon tomorrow. And so since they responded to that way later than noon the next day, I suppose they assume, as they said, that they would not proceed with Miss Lively's deposition on July 17th. So they're framing this as a lie, when in fact, I don't really think that's what happened there. They didn't respond by noon Pacific, so they're assuming that she wants to postpone. The film footage will be produced by July 11th. Okay, well now you know, but it's way later than noon the next day, so whatever. All right. Well, I got to dip, guys. That's all I got for now. I appreciate you for watching, and hopefully I'll go get my bag at the airport, and so I'll have my shit together next time I'm on. But we'll see. I'm going to go film Donna's show with her and Zach this afternoon in a few hours, so I don't know if that's going to be live or not. I guess I'll find out, and I'll let you guys know. But for now, I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm trying to read my phone and talk at the same time. All right, I better go. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Hey, Bushbirds. I'll talk to you later. Bye.